Welcome to the afternoon session of the live stream. The moment on the 32nd, we see that we are now getting towards the extremes of bearish momentum that we've been having. The bearish trend that we've seen the last, I guess, roughly an hour. We saw this high taken. It made a new high, which subsequently has also been taken. So at this moment, for very short term, we can look for longs, but we do want to be aware that we are going to run into some resistance that may send us down for lower prices. That's the good thing about this strategy. We're only looking for 5 points, and so in a lot of cases, you can still achieve your target without upsetting price and market structure shifts and that kind. Okay, now we have a low swept. Now we're going to wait and see if we get a new high made to look for a long setup. If we don't get the long setup, what we're going to end up having is more consolidation, and we'll just sit back and let price settle a bit and wait for an expansion. Let's mark out our swing high so we know when it's been taken, and we can look for the setup. Let's go ahead and mark up our manipulation. me step out for just a moment while price is consolidating here. Okay, price is finally broken out, made a new high. We had the low swept. So let's go ahead and set up our entry at 30% retracement level. Okay, we've now put in a new high, a new low as well. Let's give it maybe another candle or so, but we're going to cancel the limit order and just look for the next setup. Okay. Okay, so this sell limit is actually a glitch. It's not going to put us in to a trade or anything. So now we're looking for another low to be taken, and we're going to look for the exact same setup. Look for a long. Okay, so we had a low broken here. It's a little hard to see. Right here. Let's see if we can make a new low. I'm sorry, a new high. Let's see if we can reach for a new high. back. All right, let's see where we are with price now. Okay, back into our consolidation zone. Not something that we want to jump into right now. Right, once it broke out, we were looking, even if we took the 30% entry, you can see where that would have landed us. We'd be right here now at, see, trade would be over. And honestly, there are days like this where price just doesn't really want to trend. It wants to take highs and lows and just go back and forth and pretty much consolidate for the day or for an extended time period. I mean, we had volatility at 10 o'clock when there was a red folder that was announced. Outside of that, it's pretty much been consolidation zone since around 10:30, 10:45, even through the lunch hour. We've been sitting in a 50-point pocket, just tapping highs and lows. You can see, if you look down on the 5-minute chart, you can see exactly what that movement looks like. And as I mentioned this morning, also we had the 8:30 open, which is this dash purple line. I'm sorry, not the 8:30, that's the midnight open, the midnight open. So the midnight open is a zone that usually gets revisited throughout the day, as well as what I mentioned earlier about the new day opening gap. So you have new day opening gap, you have a midnight open, and you also have an 8:30 open. Those three areas are zones that you want to watch throughout your trading day, just to see if price is pulling towards it. If it is, you can pretty much anticipate that it is moving in that direction and it's going to reach the target. But if it hits it too many times throughout the day, it also gives you an indication that price wants to consolidate. Went ahead and set up this as a short trade, potentially, depending on if a new low is made. And that's because we had market structure shift once that low was taken. We then had a high taken here. We had a swing high. And so now if we get a new low below this level, then we'll be looking for a short at this 30% retracement level. I'm not going to take the trade, but I do want to set it up so we can follow it and watch it. The reason why I'm not going to take it is because it's in this consolidation zone. I do not want to trade in this area. Okay, looks like we may get that low soon. Okay, there we go. So let's see if price wants to propel out of here and return bullish, or if we're going to continue the bearish trend, trade into 30%, sell off, and then continue downwards. Again, I don't know why this sell limit is still here. I canceled the limit order a while ago, and for whatever reason, it's still there. Every time I press it, it says fail to cancel. Too late, meaning it's already been canceled, but it won't come off the screen. See, that would have been an entry if this was a trade that somebody wanted to take. Okay, that would have been another loss if I had taken that trade. Glad I didn't. But this area is just given too many losses. Even if I would have tried to trade over here, you know, taking out this high by this wick, and then it trades it back in and just kept trading down. So that would have been a loss. We had this set up here, 30% entry. Once price finally broke out, the next time it hit the 30% was on this side, and it was this downward candle, hit 30, kept trading down all the way down to here. 30 would have been at 71.75, so at 66.75 the trade would have been over. Yep, they made it all the way down to 63. So, and then we just saw this one, so that would have been 3 losses in a row in this same zone. And that's why consolidation zones is not a good area for this strategy. Let's test the 50% mark. Okay, so 50% would have delivered a winning trade. You can see it got out by 1 tick on this candle. I'll make that larger so you can see. It made it out by 1 tick. Okay, let's see if we have equal lows down here now. Let me remove some of these purple lines. Okay, so let me just tell you what I'm seeing. First thing I notice is we have potentially a trend line setting up. Right? So essentially like trend line liquidity. Hits a trend line down, trend line down, trend line down. Right? And then when you look at your lows, you start setting up equal lows. So if we're making lower highs and equal lows, what's going to end up happening at some point is as price is going down, you're going to have people taking shorts, and they have their stop loss here and here and here and here and here. So all of those stop losses that people have while price is going short, but it's not really making new lows, price is then going to vault upwards, taking out each of these highs at once, all the way to the top. Now that doesn't mean we're bullish, because we're still in the same area. We wouldn't be out of this zone. If price continues, then we're definitely bullish. But for now, it's just eating up liquidity. Okay, first high is taken. Now we got the next one here. And the final one here. Get a small retracement and then a push to the next level. Okay. Look for a retracement to that line and look for a bounce there. We want to see the candle body stay inside of this fair value gap if we're bullish. Okay, that didn't happen. See, once again, return to the new day opening gap. See if there's any validity to this trend line. Can price close above? Then we get a race to the top. But first we need a closure inside of the fair value gap or above. Preferably create a new fair value gap. Okay, let's see if we target these equal lows. Yeah, it's now 150. Between 150 and 210, there's going to be a macro run that's going to race for liquidity that's been sitting there for at least the last hour or so. So it's most likely going to be lunchtime liquidity. So all the highs from lunchtime have been ran. The first 30 minutes of 1 o'clock. So now liquidity that's still open would be lows. If anyone who was long down in this area, they have stops placed at some of these areas that haven't been touched yet. So this is likely our next 20-minute target, somewhere down here. And if that's not the case, then the target is here. And in that case, if we sweep here, then we're likely going lower for the rest of the day. And again, that's just my opinion on where I think the market's going. So as you can see, I know it's not easy to see. I'm just trying to put a larger time frame on here. Okay, it's not good with the 30-second. Let's try with the 5-minute. So if you see from basically 11 o'clock ish, yep. So in this area here, price has pretty much just stayed here. Right. So you're looking at about a 50-point range. After 3 hours, price has just hit the top end of it, then the bottom end of it, then the top end of it, then the bottom end of it, almost the top end. Now we're back at the bottom end. Let me just make that a different color so it's easy to see. Right. Let's remove that now. Get back to price action. But it's not giving us a lot to work with as far as taking trades. Welcome to whoever's joined. Thank you. Payush. Yeah, we can see price is still sitting in this fair value gap. Traded through it, back into it, and now it's sitting right at the equilibrium of this gap, which also is about 50% of the range from this low to this high. Yes, if you just joined, if you could jump in the chat and put in where you're from and how long you've been trading, just so I have an idea of who's in the room. Okay, well, if you're new, especially new to the channel, But I'm utilizing a 30-second scalping model. So you can see the chart I'm using is the 30-second. The way this model works is first you have to identify the trend. So you're looking for a trend. Once you identify the trend, what you're going to find is, or what you're going to look for is, let's say this was a downtrend and we're looking for lower prices. The first thing we want to do is we want to recognize when a high has been swept, because that's going to set up our trade. So if we're marching down here, we have this high being made, and then we have it being eclipsed here. Once that high was swept, now what we're looking for is this low. So we need a new low to be put in, lower than this one. Once that happens, then what we want to do is we want to do a Fibonacci on our manipulation. Manipulation will be everything from the previous low to its most extreme high. So it'll be like this. And then we'll wait for price to retrace back up to 30%, which is this level. Once it retraces to that 30% level, we're going to short and expect price to then break down 5 points. And so we do a stop loss of 5 points. We do a take profit of 5 points. And that's our trade. So it's 1-to-1. It's scalping, so it's meant to be quick. Usually you'll have results in 3, 4, maybe 5 candles. And you just start looking for the next setup, and you can get multiple setups within an hour. Today has been a lot of consolidation, so we haven't had as many setups as you normally would have. But when you have trending markets, you can have 3 or 4 setups in an hour. That's not uncommon. Ahmed, welcome back. Good to see you again. I made some adjustments to my mic, so I hope it sounds better now. Hope I don't sound like AI anymore. Or at least I sound a little more human. All right, yes, today is, as I mentioned, has been not as eventful as previous days just because of all this consolidation. There was good movement during the London session. And then after 9:30 had a pretty good movement as well at the opening bell. Then there was a red folder released at 10 o'clock that sent price moving about 100 points within 30 minutes. And after that, it's just been consolidation after consolidation since around 10:45 this morning. Hopefully now that we're just, okay, it's 2 o'clock. Now that it's 2 o'clock, let's see if we get more volatility, and at least we get a trending market so we can take some trades, or at least watch the strategy work. Oh, awesome. Great. I'm glad my sound is better. It was a bit rough in the earlier stages. So if you watch any of my older videos from yesterday or last week, I apologize for the sound. give it a few more minutes till about 10 minutes after the hour. Hopefully the macro produces some results. It sweeps liquidity, and then we can get out of this zone. You can see for the last hour, price has just been sitting here. Yeah, I'm about 4 hours in now. I started around 10 o'clock. It's now 2. I'll go until 3 or 4, just depending on how price is working. So I'm usually here for 5 or 6 hours in a day. I split it into 2 sessions. So the 10 o'clock morning session, I'll close it at 12. I take an hour off, and then I come back at 1 o'clock for the afternoon session. Yeah, but when I first started trading about 3 years ago, I was trading everything, indices, crypto, Forex, and I realized I needed to specialize in something. And so for me, I like indices. So I'm going to mostly do the Nasdaq 100. I may also do the S&P 500 from time to time. Try to stay away from the Dow, but I'm not opposed to trading the Dow. But I'm not doing any Forex or crypto at the moment. For crypto, I do have a portfolio, but those are more long-term holds, but not necessarily day trading any crypto. All right. But one thing you want to notice is that price is fractal. So any strategy that you use to trade on it can apply to any time frame. It's just the lower time frame you go, the more opportunities you'll have to trade. And the opposite is the higher time frames you go and you want to trade from the 1 hour. Well, you may only get one trade set up per week. If you try to trade from the 1 minute, you may get 3 or 4 trade setups in a session. Right. Oh, and sorry, just to add to what I've just mentioned. Yes, you can get a setup on any hour or any time frame. But the reason why people prefer the higher time frames that only maybe give you 1 or 2 setups a week is because those generally are larger moves. So instead of, let's say you took a long on a 5-minute chart, it may move up 30 or 40 points before it starts to retrace. So you're gonna profit 30 handles, 30 points on a trade. If you try to do it on the hour or the 4 hour, price may move 250 points. But you may only, like I said, you may only get 1 or 2 opportunities in a week. And if you miss it, then you don't have any trades for that week. And also, you have to match up your stop loss to coincide with your trade and what time frame you're on and what your risk tolerance is. So if you're looking for a take profit of 250 points, you're most likely not going to be able to have a 5-point stop loss or a 10-point stop loss. Okay, now we have a new low. Alrighty. Let's now set up our trade here. Again, I'm not taking a trade until we get out of this zone. I do not want to take a trade in this consolidation zone. So if to take the trade, I need to have an entry inside of here, then I'm not going to take it. So I'm just going to watch and just show how the setup is done. But I'm not actively risking any money here. But I do want to just walk you through what the setup was. Okay, so as I mentioned, we had downwards momentum, so the trend was bearish. We then would need, after making a low, we need a high to be swept. So we made a low. Then we swept a high, which was here, with this long candle here. Now, after that was done, we now need this low to be swept. And there was a lot of activity and nothing was happening. It got almost here, but it didn't take it. And that happened over here. So what we would look for now is a retracement into 30% of this manipulation leg. So it's from the low that was broken to the high that was made. You remember that it clips this high. So that was step 2. And then step 3 is over here by breaking this low. And as you can see, I didn't want it in this zone, and it's because it would have been a losing trade. You can see that it came out of the red side, so we already have more than 5 points against us. If the trade was entered at 50% as opposed to 30%, we'd be still in a trade, but I'm not sure it will produce a winner. It's just this consolidation zone all day has been, it goes from the bottom of the zone to the top of the zone and then back and forth, but it's refusing to break out. Get rid of this trend line. Let's get rid of these because we are not taking trades in this zone. See, even a 50% entry would have been a loss. This is why I don't make entries in the consolidation zone. So we wait for price to do something else, to show us something different. And this yellow zone, this new day opening gap has just been a magnet for price all day long, ever since 11:15. Price dipped in, bounced out, went through, came back through. It's just been I don't know. I haven't heard of Maverick currencies. I've never heard of that before. Most of the popular prop firms is, I know, on the futures. So I trade futures, which Futures is a little different than what you find on some of the other exchanges where they have CFDs. So the difference is CFDs, the exchange actually gets to set the price. They get information from the central exchange, but every exchange has slightly different prices. And so I don't really like that because I don't trust the brokers to not expand the spread or to take price against me on purpose when they're close to my stop loss. And I've heard that that's what brokers will do when they're close to your stop loss. They have leeway to break free from the prices that the central exchange is given, and they'll just take your stop loss and then get right back on track. So I don't really trust that. But if you trade futures, it's all on a central exchange. Everyone has the exact same price at the exact same time. And so I prefer that. And there's two prop firms that does futures. It's Top Step is one. Apex is the second one. So it's Top Step and Apex. All the other ones, My Forex Fund, I can't remember. There's a bunch of them. They mostly specialize in Forex, but they do have CFDs if you want to trade indices. But I don't know a lot about those because I've never used them. But I do understand they're really popular and a lot of people are using those. I think it's the Funded Trader is another one. So it's My Forex Fund, the Funded Trader. Yeah, there's a lot out there. That's good. So while we wait, any more questions? So we swept these lows in our new day opening gap, and then price immediately went for these highs. This one and this one. As I mentioned earlier, before we had the trend line that was trending down, that trend line liquidity price was going to go and sweep all of them. So it took these first two with this movement, and then it retraced back down to the start twice, and now it's taking this one, and I believe it's going to probably target this one next. Yes, to answer, I haven't won my challenge yet, but I am positive. I am not in negative right now. But I got a ways to go. I'm doing 150,000 challenge, so I need to earn $9,000 to pass the challenge. Okay, now we have equal highs. So it didn't quite take out the high, but it did equal it. So it went all the way up to the top. But this, again, it's, oh, there we go. Now it passed. Let's just clean up our charts. Well, I'm hoping I can pass the challenge in the next 2 weeks. But we'll see. It depends on how price action is going. I don't want to force trades just for the sake of it. I don't want to take a trade just because I'm sitting in front of you. That wouldn't help me or you either. Um, but I don't want to be so conservative that the challenge takes 2 months either. Um, it's one of those things where you have to believe in yourself, and then you just let whatever happens happens. You can't change it once you enter a trade. You just let it go, but you have to believe in it. And that was a challenge for me early on, is trusting that what I saw in price action was enough for a winning trade. And not every trade is going to win, even if you follow your method to a T. Even the best strategies are going to be 70% win rate, right? And so following your method is still going to produce a loss 3 out of every 10. And you have to be comfortable with that. And that took some time for me. Everyone's journey is going to be a bit different, but for me, that took a really long time to not move the stop loss, to trust in entering a trade as opposed to sitting on the sideline, all of those things. And then when you lose a trade, not let that get you down, not let that affect the next trade. Okay, it looks like potentially we may be moving out of this consolidation zone, so I'm a little happy about that. We're clearly in a buy zone. I mean, in a bullish trend at this moment. And so what we want to see is to go long is for a low to be swept. The closest low to where we are right now is here. Let's find a swing point. Oh man, let's see if it can make one up here so it doesn't have to come all the way back down into this consolidation zone that we don't want. All right, see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining again. Any other questions from anyone else? Sweet. Okay, so our low is actually here now that we want to see broken. And it happened already. Excellent. Now we want to see a return to the upside, and we want to see this high taken. Okay, we continue to wait for highs to be taken. Continue to get new lows as it trades back down into the range. Not what we were hoping to see. Even though it's the top end of the range, it's still in the range. What we don't want to see is price to escape below here. Let's shift down to the 15-second. We haven't looked at that all since we started today. Let's go down to it and look and see if there was anything that we could have seen that may have given us an entry earlier. Okay, all right, let's see where we are now. See if we can get along here if we make a new high. You know what? Let's cancel this limit order. We don't want to take a trade that brings us back into this zone. We've been waiting all afternoon to break out of the zone, and as soon as it does, all it does is retrace back in. Okay, good. I got that limit order removed. Now it's no longer a distraction on our screen. New day opening gap once again. Okay. So on the other side, being on the other side of this trend line means we may be looking for lower prices. Let's see how everything develops. Now, I'm not using this trend line to take a trade or anything. I don't trust them that much, but they do have relevancy sometimes. You can see where the candles are printing on which side, or if you're waiting for a price to break out, then it's essentially no different than one of the lines I make that I'm looking for a high or a low to be broken. It's no different. So if you see something like this, a trend, set up your trend line, and you don't necessarily have to take a trade off of it, but you're waiting for price to come to the other side and to print a candle, not just a wick, but close a candle on the other side. So we sit and we're waiting. Sometimes when it's shallow like this, you'll still see it break back above and then print candles above. But if it stays over here for several more candles and then breaks down, then it's pretty much confirming that we're seeking lower prices. And even the new day opening gap is not going to hold. Let's move back over to the 30-second. See how on the other side of this trend line it's only wicks, no candle bodies. Wow. Went exactly to the trend line and fell violently. Wasn't sure what I had when I first drew this trend line, but look at how it's playing out to a T. Price just will not close above it. And it's now returned to the new day opening gap twice after hitting it. But one thing this trend line will do is allow price to widen. So the distance between the new day opening gap and the trend line with every passing minute just gets larger and larger. The lows remain consistent. The highs just get bigger. Anyone new who just joined, just pointing out that right now we're still kind of in a consolidation zone. Since 1 o'clock has just been sitting in this area. It did break out a little bit, but it retraced right back in. And this yellow area that you see here, that's been an area of confluence all day long, is the new day opening gap. And that is the variance between the closing price at 1700 and then the markets take an hour off for maintenance, and then it reopens at 1800. Well, it didn't reopen at the exact value that it closed at 1700. So that variance between the closing price and the reopening price is this opening gap in the yellow. So if you look to the bottom left on the 5-minute chart, you can see that price has pretty much revisited this area all day long since this morning. I mean, it passed through at 10 o'clock. It retraced all the way back, hitting it at 11. It did go through during the lunch hour, passed back up, traded back down, traded back up, and it's just pretty much every 15 or 20 minutes since lunch, it's been residing in this area. Even if it breaks out, it comes all the way back. So so ever since lunch, we've just kind of been sitting here, and this level of consolidation is not really conducive for the strategy we're using on the 30-second scalping. It's really made for trending prices, and right now we don't have a trend. I mean, we have a loose bullish trend because we do see higher lows, and we see, yeah, I guess we do see higher highs, sort of, but not really. And right now you can see down on the 5-minute chart I could visually see sort of a trend line being made, and the retracement back down passes through the trend line to the new day opening gap, and now the trend line has become resistance. It can't close above, and that's been going on now for the last 10 minutes. But it is making higher highs, so we'll see what happens. Okay, another close below the trend line. Will we now see a return to the new day opening gap, or will this be the candle that breaks the trend? And again, we're looking for closes, so we're looking for the candle to close on the other side, not just to visit the other side, but we're looking for the close. Okay, now let's take this and okay here. There we go. Okay. Looks like while I was doing something else, price decided to finally break through and close on the other side. Had a small one here and then a breakout, pretty much off the trend line, which is good. That's what we like to see. Okay, so now we can expect price to at least explore this area in here, although it's the same area we've been in all afternoon, so it's the same consolidation zone that we don't want to trade in. So we just wait for price to get out of it. So hopefully we can eclipse these highs and we can look for a new setup once we do get above these highs. We don't want any, we're not interested in price in this area. It's just been here too long, all afternoon, pretty much since 11 o'clock this morning. And it's not where we want to take trades from. Okay, let's peek at the 15-second and see if there's anything to note from there. Nope. You can see I set up this short trade from this manipulation leg here at I guess about 30 minutes ago when it traded that lower, but it never returned through. I'm not actually taking this trade. I'm not in a trade. I'm just setting it up with the parameters as if I was in a trade, just so we can see what the results are. But again, I'm not interested in the zone that we're sitting in. It's just it's been too I guess been too wishy-washy, just, you know, taking out highs, taking out lows, but not displaying a trend. And so it doesn't really work for this strategy. And that's why I'm waiting for price to break out of this purple line at 15,903. And until that happens, I'm just a spectator watching. But I did want to show that this trade came from making a low, then sweeping a high when it made this one, When we got here, it swept out that high, and then this low was swept over here. So then you just wait for a retracement to 30%, which took 30 minutes to get around here and come back around. But as you can see, price just delivered a loss if we would have taken that trade. And I've been saying this all afternoon, even this morning. This is precisely why we don't take trades in this zone. I've back tested it. I've actually traded it live before, and I just haven't had good results from it. And that's why I'm mentioning that now, just so we are a bit more patient and we increase our strike rate and try to take the best trades that we possibly can. And this one's just not a good trade. It follows the criteria, but just doesn't work out because of the consolidation. Okay, looks like we're almost there. Maybe price is willing to break out for this last hour. It is 2:58. So in another minute and some change, we'll see price. We'll see time cross over to 3 o'clock, which is the last real hour of trading. For prop firms, at least for Top Step, you need to be out of your trade by 4:10. So 16:10, you need to be out of your trade. I try to exit by 1600, just so I don't get caught in a bad position, because they will end your trade for you. Wherever you are at 4:10, 16:10, they will just close out your position. Okay, we're looking for a low to be taken. Let's see if maybe this one can be it. And then let's see if we get a move. See if we get a bullish move to take out that high. Okay. Step 2 taken. All right. Fair value gap here. Let's see if this holds price. Okay, it did not hold price. Let's set this one up, this long. See if this delivers a winner for anyone. Again, we're still in the same zone. We haven't taken out this high, so I'm not interested in a trade. However, 1588 flat. The low on this candle is 1588 and a quarter, so it did not it did not tap you in. Left us out by one tick. Now the question is, does price want to print higher prices? Okay. Guess that question is semi-answered. It looks like it does, although it's not confirmed yet. Okay, let's see if now is a time. It's a good time for it to take out the highs. We're past the 3 o'clock hour, the 3 o'clock threshold. It's not quite 3:15 yet when we would expect a push towards the midnight open or the 8:30 open. Although we did see a push to the midnight open room just before 1 o'clock at the end of lunch. So we don't necessarily need to have that happen between 3 and 4 o'clock like it normally does. Okay, let's see if we can get a hold from here. Let's remove this fair value gap. Doesn't seem to have any value. See if maybe we'll get a retracement for that extra tick that we missed. What happened? Let's hope this is a signal of a change from the afternoon price action that we've seen thus far. So far, we haven't seen price break out of its current range for the last 3 or 4 hours. Because of it, we haven't taken any trades. So let's hope this last hour does change that. And I think this will be an indicator here. If this fails, then maybe this hour is going to be just like all the rest. If this turns into a winning trade, then potentially we're looking at something different than what we've seen since 11 o'clock. Okay, so that would have delivered at the 30%. First time that we've seen this afternoon where our setup would have worked. Oh man, there would have been so many losses in this zone had those previous trades been taken. I'm glad that I've gone through that pain before and I didn't need to do that today. But this is a good sign. This is a good sign that price can dip into a zone and then turn around and go the opposite direction and deliver a win, because that's what this strategy is about. It's about having a retracement and a continuation of the trend. So this 30% retracement now needs to continue bullish. And we only wanted it to continue 5 points, and then we exited out our trade. But for watching price action, we do want it to make a new high. So this purple line at 15,903 is where we want to see price pull to next. And if we can get a break, then we can continue looking for longs. And while we're waiting, let's just drop down to the 15-second and see if there's anything different there. You can see the 15-second candle body sat right on the entrance, on the entry. You would have taken heat of maybe 2 ticks, it looks like. And then price delivered. Let me go ahead and just mark up this win that just happened. Let me just, anyone who's new to the channel or just joined, let me just walk you through what happened here. So we had a upwards movement. So we saw a bullish trend. So as we were watching it make higher prices, that is essentially step one over and over again. Every time it makes a new high, that's step one. Step two is taking out a low. So as we were marching up, the first low to be taken was here, that swing low. See the price broke down here just below by a couple ticks. Then what we want to see is a continuation. So we want to see the high that was made before the low be eclipsed. And that was here. So this high was before this low was made. And we want to see this high eclipsed. That happened here on this candle. Then we want to take our Fibonacci and we want to take this entire range here from the high to the low as the range that we see as manipulation. When price moved downwards, it was manipulating all the traders because it really wanted to go higher. Oops, let's move this over to here because that was the lowest point. And then from there, we just wait for price to retrace back and we want to enter at 30%. For a continuation of 5 points. And that's what we got over here. It took, so the high was made at 1456 and the retracement back into the zone didn't happen until 1506. So it was about 10 minutes we had to wait for price to retrace back, cross in, and then deliver the 5 points. And as you can see, once it tapped you into the trade, 45 seconds later, it had delivered the profit. Okay, we can see now we made an equal high. We haven't eclipsed it yet, but we did make a new high. And now we see that, let me clean this up a bit Get rid of some of these old lines that we don't need anymore. But we can see now we made a new high. We've eclipsed the low. Now we're looking for another high and another long setup based on these parameters. %30 is here. Okay, we are currently not in a trade. Not until this purple line at the top is eclipsed at 15,903.5. We are not in a trade. We haven't even set up our trade. We just have everything in place for when we need it. We continue to wait. Hopefully, and then it won't take too much longer before that high is eclipsed. And then we'll be setting up our long. Okay, there it is. Long is set up. Okay, just closed out a trade, and that one worked as well. I was hopeful that the 3 o'clock hour would give us something different than what we've seen for the last 4 hours, where it barely gave us one entry per hour, but it was all in the same consolidation zone that as we watched it without entering a trade, we watched them become losers. So I hope as you're watching now that you can see the benefit of being patient. You can see also the benefit of not trading this scalping strategy in consolidation. And just like any other form of trading, I don't care what strategy you use, patience will produce more winners than a better strategy. Okay, let's clean up our screen a bit. Let's remove these purple lines. Okay, let's move this out of the way as well. Let me step away for just a moment. I will be back in under 2 minutes. Okay, what happened while I was gone? Okay, so we had a low taken. After the high, you have a swing low taken. Now, if we get a new high, then we have a very similar setup that we just took. Let's mark up this low just so that we pay attention to it. Let's see if that was just for a liquidity sweep or if that's our new direction. All right, because price swept the low here. So it could have made higher prices if it wanted to. But the fact that then it came and swept this low and then this low leads me to believe it may want to seek lower prices in the short term. So I just want to sit back and watch. Let's see what happens next. Which one of these purple lines gets taken first? And, and there we go. We have it. Oh, I could see lower prices. I knew it. I could see it coming. But it's fine because what happened was we had a breakdown to the low, to the downside. We then had a high taken. And then we had a new low put in. So let's do this. See what price looks like at a 30% retracement to the downside. Okay, so that would have tapped you in. Okay. See, that would have been a losing trade. I'm glad I didn't jump in there. The thing is, I don't like jumping in trades immediately when the direction changes. I like for price to deliver in that direction for just a little bit, so I find a little bit more comfort that it's actually going in that direction as opposed to just a liquidity sweep. So that's what I was wondering, if this sweep of this low was just to take out anyone who was long, and then price will continue, and it looks like that's where we're going. So we swept that low. Now we swept this high, and let's see if we can now go for this high. So since the previous high, we have swept this low, and this low. So if price is able to make it back to the top, what we'll see is the manipulation zone will be rather large. Will be all of this. Let's remove some distractions. So we have a short one here. So we had this high overtaken by this high, then break down to take out this low. And now let's see if we can take out this high. That would give us a much smaller zone to work with. Let's keep an eye on time. It's 3:25, so we have about 30 minutes left. Okay. Still breaking down lower. Okay, I drew this purple box just to show where we are now. We're in another, believe it or not, consolidation zone, which was the high of, I guess, after 2 o'clock roughly, as well as some areas we visited before lunch. But you can see since 3 o'clock, kind of where we are. Right, it's been about 15 points and it's just kind of doing its thing. We took one trade as it was breaking out, a retracement back in, and it broke out even further. That's what we were looking for. We were hoping for a continuation, a bullish continuation upwards, and just didn't materialize. We traded back below the 50% mark right after that, back to the extreme top of it, and back down below 50%. So we'll wait. It's now 3:30. We want to see price break out to the upside. We also see it revisiting that trend line that we had from the last hour. Right, that was down here. Actually, let me switch to the 30-second. It might be easier to see. Okay, here we go. So we continued to bounce off of the new day opening gap, which was this afternoon, was a place it visited every 15 to 30 minutes. And once it did, that trend line that was drawn, price just kept bumping against it. And when it bumped against it, it shot back down, down to the new day opening gap, out of it. And after the third or fourth time, then it finally broke out. And when it broke out to the upside, which is where we ended up collecting the one trade that we took. We watched one before taking one. We watched that one go to success, and then we took one, believing that price was breaking out, and it did temporarily. But then immediately after winning this trade and breaking out of this consolidation zone, it returned back inside. So we're just waiting for it to jump out again. And if it doesn't want to before 350 or so, then we won't take it. We won't look for another setup. Yeah, we're like I mentioned, we're not going to force a trade. We're going to sit back and we're going to watch, and we're going to be smart about this, and we're going to only get in when we see price in a trending direction. Okay, thank you for the tip. Tomorrow crude inventory will be up 5%. Gained 8% last week. Okay. I've never traded crude oil. I don't think I want to start now, but I see what you're saying. Okay. Golden hour bulls are awakening. Okay. All right. All right, well, thanks for the advice. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can join more often, and sure, share any insight that you have on other markets. Not going to have any bearing on the actual trades I take, but it doesn't mean it's not a market I can't take a look at when I'm off live stream. I know Priya. Okay, and then rock bottom. Okay, anyone else have any insight or questions or anything you want to ask? Anything you want to say in the chat? Price is still consolidating in this purple box. As long as it's doing that, we really don't have a trade setup. I mean, price is still bullish, so we have already swept lows until we get a new high, there's really nothing that we need to do. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, Meta, Google, Tesla. To the moon, okay. Okay, readjust our manipulation just in case we get a breakout to the upside. All right, I see we've now moved to the lower part of this trend line, the one I spoke about earlier, where it was resistance, finally broke through, traded off of it. Now it was support briefly, and now it's broken through and it's trading below now. Yeah, let's remove some of this out of the way. It doesn't look like we're going to get a long setup. However, we may get a short if we can get a high to be taken, a short-term high, and then further movement downwards. Let's go to the 15-minute, maybe. I'm sorry, the 15-second. Potentially a high was taken on that time frame. And it was right here. Oops, not there, here. So we had a high swept, and then we had a breakdown lower. So in that case, this would be the manipulation. This would be the setup. Just wait for a retracement. Actually, I'm gonna cancel this limit order. After we had the low eclipse, it made a high and then eclipsed it. What I want to see is break of the high, new low, trade into 30%, and then trade away. It's 3:45 now, so I'm not really confident in the amount of time that we have left. Even though I was just risking one contract, price action has just been really, I don't know, unfavorable today. Okay, let's shift back over to the 30-second. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see if now the entry. Wow, that was strong. And I'm glad I'm not in it because that would have been a very quick loss. When I was on the 15-second, what I didn't like was the double tops right here. I saw this as something that price action would have come to get. Right? And it was higher than the stop loss that I had. So I was not confident that price would move down prior to taking out these double highs. And again, a lot of that is based on the fact that it's 3:48 now, right? So we're getting to the end of the day, and those last few things, price is going to probably want to come and clean up. Right. Okay, all right. I like that analysis. Definitely shaking weak bulls, but it's price action has just been really stagnant today after the 10 o'clock news this morning. Let's look ahead to tomorrow and see what do we have to look forward to. Okay, a red folder at 8:15, which is non-farm payroll employment change, and that's it. That's all we have tomorrow. Okay. So we can see now we had a high made, which represented a market structure shift. We had a low made that was subsequently taken out, and let's see if we make a new high. And we did. Set up. Fibonacci has been set up. Set up our limit tool. Now we watch and see what happens. It's 350, so I'm going to stay out of any trade now, especially the way that today has gone. But this one does look promising if it can retrace back. Right, not quite tapping into a trade yet. It's one tick away. Okay, now there's a tap in. For anyone who wanted that trade, I didn't. But for anyone who does or did. Good move on my part. Hopefully no one else took that trade. Okay, we got a wick below, so we got a low taken. Let's see if we get a push upwards. Take out another high. Okay, I got a feeling this is going to be some fireworks at 4 o'clock today or sometime afterwards. Price has just been holding way too long, and they know that they have been just turning every trader into liquidity. Even here, you see a low was put in, the high was taken, and then you had a full retracement back to the low. Not a shallow retracement and continuation. You had a full retracement. Now we had nearly a full retracement back to the high, and then here we are back down here. Oh, what do you know? Right back to our 3 o'clock consolidation zone. All right, moving up right back to that trusty trend line. This trend line, the same as a new day opening gap, the same as these consolidation zones. It's like today's just been a reoccurring theme. Every hour has been exact same as last hour. Hopefully that means there's something good to come tomorrow. Yesterday I felt was a good trading day. Today, not so much. But the good thing about today is being able to recognize when trading conditions aren't ideal and staying on the sideline. Preserving capital is just as satisfying as winning. Here we go. Top end in the zone, trade out. Top end of the zone, trade out. Top end of the zone, trade out. Top end of the zone, trade out. It's it's back and forth, 15 points. I mean, I guess if you want to, you can sell when it gets up here and wait for it to get in the bottom quarter and buy again. I guess it's not the type of trading I'm looking for. Okay, finally, we have a new high, finally. Unfortunately, the manipulation zone is here. But we can also let's set up one here and see what that looks like. Okay, so 30% are about in the same area. So I'll get rid of the big one and we'll just focus on this area right here as a potential spot for a retracement and long. We won't take this trade, mostly due to time and how today's market has not really been trending. So we're not going to force anything. We've taken a winning trade recently and we're just going to stick to that for our results for the day. It's now 4:01. We've passed the time of making trades. We're just really watching the market at the moment. We finally did break that high from 315 that we've been looking to break, which was the exit of our last trade. And now price is showing a willingness to make higher values. I knew there'd be fireworks after 4 o'clock. I just had a feeling that since nothing was happening before, that it was going to wait until most people had left the market and then show a willingness to print higher prices. Okay, it's 5 minutes after the hour, and it looks like things are settling down, and there's not going to be a lot of price action left. Volume is probably already left. So I'm going to end the live stream here. For anyone who is new and want to continue and watch this on a daily basis, please make sure you subscribe so you can get invited to the next live stream, whether it's tomorrow morning or whenever the next one is. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining, and we'll do the same thing tomorrow morning. See you then. Take care.